Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. I'm back in my beautiful home country of Austria with some immense views behind me, and I also have the keys to the Nissan R35 GTR, a car that has tons of motorsport history and pedigree infused into it. And this R35 generation has been on sale for nearly 16 years. So we're about to put this bad boy to the test and see why it's been so successful over those years. Let's go do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're now sat in the R35 Nissan GTR. And so I have it in the sportiest settings. The first thing that I can tell you is that the car does drive pretty smooth. The seating position is great. You have good adjustability with the steering wheel and great adjustability with the seat as well. That's one funny thing that I was trying to figure out earlier. Actually, you adjust the seat by one whole button. Cars usually have multiple buttons where you can push the seat forward and backwards, adjust the upper part of the seat, lean it forwards or backwards. This is all done with one button. It's quite interesting, but it still works. It's just a kind of different, unique feature that I've never seen on another car. So some interesting stuff in history. The previous generation R32 GTRs and the R33 GTRs and the Skylines that came before this R35, they were all race vehicles. They were all vehicles that competed in motorsport. And this R35 GTR, it's not as race focused. It's more of a road going sports car where you actually get some luxury and creature comforts. We're coming up to some twisties where we can push the car, but I just want to give some facts before we do that and we test out the performance of Godzilla. So, first things first, this car comes equipped with a 3.8 liter twin turbo V6 that puts out 565 horsepower and about 465 pound-feet of torque if I'm right, and it's right about 600 newton meters of torque. That power is fed to the all four wheels through some interesting technology. This car's got torque vectoring, so we're really going to be able to feel the performance of all those things. You got a dual clutch transmission as well. So let's see how Godzilla handles. We're gonna put it through its paces right now. Let's go. It's funny, every time I let off the gas and I downshift, you got an awesome pops and bangs from the exhaust. Coming out of those corners, the four-wheel drive does help you pull out. It's a little bit interesting though. I previously just recently drove the BMW M4 Competition X-Drive on this mountaintop pass, and it's fascinating to feel how different both of those all-wheel drive systems help the car come out of the corners. This one feels like it's doing a lot more, and I think it's all to do with that torque vectoring system that I mentioned earlier. It's doing some fascinating stuff. It's even helping out the car when I'm braking. So if I brake and I'm turning into a corner, it will apply more torque to the inside wheels to help just rotate the car in. And now we're really coming to the twisties. I got a slow car in front of me, so I'm gonna let them get some space so we can really feel the performance of this thing. But right off the bat, man, I mean, it feels good. Oh, and then that four-wheel drive system picks up tremendously. Wow. All right, here we go. Let's put this thing through its paces. It's fascinating. The steering wheel is so reactive. Oh my goodness. The grip is sensational. Crazy. All right guys, so I want to give some brief history about the Nissan GTR. So I think the first year it was introduced was in 1967, and all previous GTRs before this thing were basically race-bred race cars. I mean, they were performing on the racetrack, and all these GTRs, they're nicknamed Godzilla. And that nickname came from the R32 Nissan GTR, and it got that nickname because it was racing in the Japan touring car series. And during the time it was racing, it won all 29 races and completely wiped out the competition. And so an Australian magazine gave that car the nickname Godzilla because it just annihilated the rest of the competition with the likes of manufacturers like Porsche. And so the R35 Nissan GTR resembles that Godzilla name in a different way today. And the way it does it is by providing ridiculous amounts of performance for half the price of what a 911 Turbo S would be. This all-wheel drive system, it's funny, with the development of the R35, the Nissan boss, an executive, they actually ordered their own 911 Turbo to study that car and be able to implement those secrets and its technology and make it better with the GTR. And I can tell you, the performance you get out of this vehicle for the price, it's fascinating. So we got some twisties again in a straight line. Let's feel it. I mean, the way the thing picks up is ridiculous. To the point I was making about the steering earlier, you know, a lot of the cars that I've driven before, they've loaded up very heavily in the corners, and this steering rack is so light and nimble. You throw it into the corner, it feels really light, and it's easy to change and make adjustments. I'll say I am not the biggest fan of that. I like steering racks that have a little bit more weight to them, especially when they load up in the corners, because that heavier steering rack, for whatever reason, makes me feel more connected to the car. It makes it feel like it's more of a hydraulic feel instead of electronic. And I think that's what it is a little bit with this. With all these smart systems and torque vectoring that this car has going on, it feels like the steering is a little bit diluted in that sense. But I can tell you, you can feel the torque vectoring doing its job through these corners. It's ridiculous. And especially for a car that weighs damn near 1,800 kilograms, you can really just send it through the corners. All right, so we're coming back through some of the twisties, and all those downshifts sound good. We're going second gear, around 3,000 RPM. Let's hit it. Oh my goodness. Jeez, the thing pulls out of the freaking corners like crazy. And you can really, you have a lot of force that you can put into the brakes as well. My oh my, it's fascinating. You can truly feel that torque vectoring doing its work when you're coming out of the corners, especially when you're going higher speeds. You know, we just went over some bumps in the middle of the corner, and the suspension really went over them well. I can feel the adjustability every single time I go through one of them. And the car, even though it weighs 1,700 kilograms, I mean, it's agile, it's up on its feet. You can just throw it into a corner and you feel a little bit of lean, but it just grips like you wouldn't believe. Again. And then you just have that 565 horsepower to just send it through all four tires, excuse me. What a machine, man. And you know, it's fascinating. You can pick these things up now for around $100,000. Some with higher miles, 80,000, and maybe even a little bit less than that. And you're getting on par performance of a 911 Turbo S. It's fascinating. And that's why this car still holds true to that Godzilla nickname the R32 received. Because nowadays this car doesn't beat all the other manufacturers in official racing. It beats it in outright performance and performance for the money. I mean, a 911 Turbo S, that thing's 200 grand easy. This thing, you can pick one up for less than 100. And it's just fascinating. Cheers to Nissan for building this car, and cheers to the Godzilla name, man. Holy crap. All right, guys, we're pretty much at a standstill here, going about 20 kilometers an hour. We're just gonna roll into it here to really feel how this thing picks up, because it's set to do 0 to 60 in about 2.8 seconds. So, oh my goodness. Yeah, that thing picks up. What's fascinating as well is you can really feel the peak power is coming right at the 5,000 RPM mark. As soon as we get there, the car just goes into overdrive and overboost. But you still have a good enough amount of torque at the 3,000, 4,000 range. And again, I'm just bewildered and fascinated about how the car can lean and use that torque vectoring to stay stable in the corners. It's immense. Absolutely. You know, what's also really neat as well is Nissan knows their customers. These cars, I guess another reason why you can attribute that Godzilla name is because you can tune this 6-cylinder engine to 800 horsepower, 700 horsepower, and have the car still be freaking reliable. It's fascinating. And there's tons and tons of GTRs, R35 GTRs out there that are built to 2,000, even 3,000 plus horsepower. And again, now on the drag strip, they're competing with twin turbo R8s, twin turbo Lamborghinis. And this car, again, you get so much more performance for the money compared to, you know, a twin turbo Lamborghini. And that is truly why it holds that Godzilla name, because it is killing those other manufacturers in a different way, and that different way is providing extreme performance similar to that of Porsche, the 911, and those twin turbo Lamborghinis and R8s for half the damn price. It's fascinating. And I'll even say this as well, it's a pretty comfortable ride. I mean, it's not like I'm getting beat and bashed around driving this thing. You know, granted, these Austrian roads are built properly. That's how we do it over here. But again, there are some bumps, and over those bumps, that adjustable suspension is doing its thing, and it's really, you put it in the comfortable settings, you could cruise a long time in this car. Now, I will say this thing seems to be a little bit of a gas guzzler, but oh my goodness, what a pleasure it is to drive these cars on these beautiful mountaintop Austrian passes. I mean, it's just something else, ladies and gentlemen, something else. All right, guys, that is it for the Nissan R35 GTR, aka Godzilla review. So just to quickly recap on the main points of this vehicle, it is such a monster. The value perspective in it, the amount of performance you get for the price is ridiculous. This car is competing with the likes of the Porsche 911 Turbo S and doing that for half the price. And overall, it is a really damn cool looking car. It stands out on the road. I talked to some of my friends about the fact that, you know, in pictures it doesn't really stand out, but really it has awesome road presence, and with the sun shining on, beaming on it right now, it looks great. And of course, one big shout out and thank you to PS Sportwagen Vermietung again for letting us take out one of their awesome cars. I've said it before and I'll say it again, they have some awesome sports cars and supercars. So if you're ever in Austria, go check them out and go rent out their awesome fleet. Just wow, what an awesome car, what an awesome day, what an awesome country. And with that being said, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. You guys know what to do. Browse the channel, like, go subscribe, and I'll be back with even better car content next time.